Provided I stick purely to discussing the game on the court, I cannot stress over whether someone gets deeply offended, man. The very guy who secured Kendrick Perkins his bag might now be his worst nightmare. A single ring from Stephen A. Smith permanently altered Perk's reality, yet amidst the deep appreciation and massive paychecks, the dynamic soured. Once Perkins ultimately chose to break his silence, the network was forever transformed. That initial conversation sparked it all. We need to begin right there. This wasn't some ordinary chat. It completely rewired his future destiny. You answer clueless about the stakes, and hanging up, your whole universe flips completely. We are talking the 2020-2021 basketball postseason, the absolute peak of ratings and intensity for the entire hoop season. Meanwhile, former league title holder Kendrick Perkins, Boston icon and second-year sports pundit, found himself entirely sidelined from the action. It was not about lacking talent or failing to connect with the viewers. Rather, it stemmed from a ridiculously dull and infuriating issue: network bureaucracy. Perk joined in 2019 on a daily wage, clearing around $2,500 per hit. He had not reached top-tier status yet. Zero guarantees existed, just an ex-athlete fighting to secure his spot in an entirely new broadcasting arena. When the postseason rolled around during his sophomore stint, he had totally maxed out the required shifts written into his agreement. The executives claimed his run for the year was totally finished. 0 remaining dates, off the air, wait until next season. However, Stephen A. Smith disagreed entirely. Smith demanded Perk on the main debate desk for 7 straight days amid the playoff heat. Forget brief cameos or one-off spots, an entire block of the highest-rated sports programming available. Even when the higher-ups immediately rejected the idea, the veteran host absolutely refused to fold. He quickly made a crucial dial. Perk eventually shared the behind-the-scenes details on a popular media podcast, breaking down the exact sequence. Smith phoned him up, advised him to chill, promised he would fix things, and swore Perk recalled this vividly, that the executives would be reaching out by morning. Sure enough, the suits rang him up at dawn. The network's next move was insane. They went way beyond just clearing extra broadcast dates. They literally shredded his current paperwork, despite having 12 months left on it, sliding him a fresh 3-year extension valued at roughly $700,000 annually. They elevated a guy earning $2,500 per gig into a heavily compensated, full-time pundit securing life-changing wealth overnight. A solitary conversation initiated by Stephen A. Smith. Perk would later admit, "They ripped that old deal to shreds. I still had 12 months pending. They binned it, handing me a completely new 3-year pact for like $700,000 a season." That exact turning point, that specific flex of power, set the stage for every dramatic twist between the duo since then. Because the big man never tried to hide or downplay that reality. He constantly declares on record that he will ride for Stephen A. against absolutely anyone. All because his mentor stood tall for him when the chips were down. Yet showing loyalty doesn't equal being a yes man. This is exactly where the friction ignited. Once Perk actually secured his microphone, a deeply protected, heavily funded microphone, he weaponized that platform in pure Perk fashion, bringing the volume, shooting straight, and taking 0 prisoners. Plus, there was one particular subject he relentlessly hammered home time after time: King James himself. Big Perk rarely misses a chance to go to bat for LeBron. The two actually shared the court for a short stint. He witnessed exactly how the superstar elevates both the culture behind closed doors and the entire organization. Therefore, whenever conversations sparked up regarding the King's all-time greatness, his championship journeys, or the sheer toughness of his opponents hit the first take desk, Big Perk held absolutely nothing back. Was this the toughest road to a ring LeBron ever faced? Absolutely not, Molly. Not a chance in the world. Anyone arguing otherwise has completely lost their mind. Heavy statements, exactly what you expect from Perk. However, Stephen A. was not buying it. The veteran analyst refused to just sit back and let those claims slide without a fight. Guess I am out of my mind then. This is easily the ultimate test. Boom! The battle is on. You simply cannot fake the sheer electricity that fills the studio whenever these titans clash. What makes their arguments about James so compelling is the unique perspective Perk offers that his co-host never could. The big man actually sat inside those huddles. He breathed that air and experienced the grind himself. That is common knowledge at this point. Look, just catching the vibe in your voice right now, it is obvious you are gearing up to push back, and it was inevitable we would clash before the broadcast wrapped. From there, the former center doubled down on his reasoning that coming back to the Cavaliers marked the most brutal championship run of the superstar's entire life. The moment the King made his return trip to Northeast Ohio, you follow me here? That became his ultimate gauntlet. Nothing topped it. He brought up the tense dynamic with Dan Gilbert, the completely toxic vibe coming from the front office, and the immense pressure of facing a fan base left absolutely crushed by his infamous exit years prior. He even peeled back the curtain on the squad's internal drama, describing the heavy tension when the team chemistry hit rock bottom. I suited up with those guys, maybe not during the championship run, but I sat right there for the previous 2 seasons when the squad fell short against the Warriors. Everything the big man shared regarding the heartbreak inside that facility was 100% authentic. This was far from some manufactured hot take. It came from raw, first-hand trauma, which perfectly highlights why networks pay him the big bucks. The guy ignores the teleprompter entirely and just speaks straight from the heart. The core argument Big Perk tried to hammer home centered around securing that ring for the land, erasing a 3-1 deficit to conquer a 73 win. Golden State Juggernaut stands as his crowning, most agonizing achievement. Factor in the incredibly strained personal beef with the team owner, and the completely broken management structure, and the difficulty level skyrockets. Naturally, Stephen A. fired back with absolute ferocity. The veteran pundit gave credit to the deep emotional angles brought to the table, yet instantly redirected the spotlight toward the absolute bloodbath waiting out west, naming Utah, Phoenix, the Clippers, and Denver alongside Dallas, insisting that surviving such a deep elite pool of contenders created an entirely new, terrifying brand of adversity. Which squad holds the supreme lineup out west? Looking at every single franchise you just listed, who boasts the ultimate squad? The two heavies simply traded relentless haymakers over the issue. Perk stood his ground on the talent gap, pointing out Los Angeles suited up 6 eventual Hall of Famers. King James was rolling with an absolutely loaded squad. Stephen A. fired back, claiming the Western Conference was a complete bloodbath compared to anything James had previously faced. A pair of brilliant minds clashing over valid points without budging an inch. That is television gold. It has been their bread and butter. They can absolutely torch each other without things getting ugly, well, for the most part anyway, which is exactly why audiences remained glued to their screens. Then came the breaking point. The argument derailed and blew right past acceptable boundaries. While breaking down the MVP race on First Take back in March 2023, Perk dropped an absolute bombshell that brought the entire broadcast to a screeching halt. He boldly claimed live that around 80% of voters were white, highlighting a specific demographic trend among past winners, specifically calling out Nikola Jokic, Dirk Nowitzki, and Steve Nash. He emphasized they failed to crack the top 10 in scoring, asking what united them. He basically told the audience to let that sink in, leaving absolutely zero doubt about his meaning. He was heavily suggesting racial bias in the voting process, making the studio instantly tense. Former co-host JJ Redick immediately fired back, challenging Perk for painting the voting bloc as prejudiced. Things took a deeply uncomfortable and hostile turn that you rarely see on daytime sports television. Stephen A. eventually admitted the tension while chatting with Bill Simmons, confessing both men crossed the line, forcing him to play peacekeeper. The network refused to just sweep the drama under the rug the following morning. Management tackled the issue head-on, issuing a live statement to clear up the previous broadcast. Regarding the claim about 80% of the voting panel being white, the network was forced into delivering a formal apology and fact-check for his remarks. That is a massive deal in the broadcasting world. It was the ultimate corporate backtrack, publicly throwing their own talent under the bus for spreading false information. Charles Barkley openly trashed the entire premise as completely brain-dead. He relentlessly roasted the situation over on Inside the NBA, joking about racially motivated ballots. That savage punchline completely blew up online and dominated the national sports cycle. Yet despite the absolute media hurricane, enduring network apologies, Barkley's roast sessions, and massive outrage, Perk kept his job. Management did not even suspend him. He stayed on camera because sparking outrage actually sells over at that network. In fact, stirring the pot usually gets you promoted. It became a messy blend of pure ego, heated clashes, and harsh realities. Fast forward to 2025, the big man felt completely untouchable, armed with a massive contract. His long-term bag was fully secured. Back in October 2024, the bosses handed him even more screen time across their flagship basketball programs. He was dominating the daily lineup from First Take and SportsCenter to hoop streams. The guy was absolutely inescapable. He was a made man in media. Without a doubt, he had morphed into a crown jewel of the network's basketball coverage. That kind of job security unlocks a wild level of swagger that fans might respect, or sheer reckless energy that gave the boardroom absolute panic attacks, depending on the broadcast. Those legendary screaming matches with Stephen A. definitely did not cool off. Things completely boiled over in March 2025, following a monstrous 31, 21, and 22 triple-double from Jokic. Big Perk hit the desk ready to crown the Joker, but Smith completely hijacked his monologue. There was zero professionalism or courtesy involved. He death stared his co-host and flat out shut down the narrative on live television. We are absolutely not playing this game right now. And there is zero chance we let folks suddenly spin a story that damages Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's run for the Most Valuable Player award. Imagine getting completely silenced by your own co-host on a nationwide broadcast. This was zero back and forth, just pure rejection. Doing it right there while rolling live, with millions of fans watching at home, guaranteed the timeline would feast on it for almost a month. Still, Big Perk stood his ground. The man never backs down, simply because the quick clips and trending posts miss a crucial truth about Kendrick Perkins. He actually laid it all out during one shockingly deep and vulnerable interview. He admitted shedding actual brothers, naming heavyweights like Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, and LeBron. Let the pure gravity of that statement sink in. We are not discussing angry keyboard warriors hating his opinions. These were his genuine friends. Guys he bled with on the hardwood, dudes he sat next to in the trenches, legends he fought beside during playoff runs, completely freezing him out over a few broadcast sound bites. He confessed he wanted to avoid the topic, thinking, man, why are we even discussing the 55th overall draft selection in the first place? Yet somehow, we ended up breaking the whole thing down. Even while claiming he wanted to steer clear, staring down that studio mic, he realized he had to speak his truth. That was the exact promise he made upon entering sports media. Either you drop your honest convictions, or you keep your mouth shut completely. Bronny was never supposed to snatch that McDonald's All-American spot. I doubt he even earned All-State honors out in California. And look, I am not trying to throw shade. I am just calling it exactly how I see it. Then, he dropped the ultimate quote that perfectly defines his entire broadcasting persona. Provided I keep my critiques strictly focused on the game of hoops, I absolutely cannot stress over grown men getting their feelings hurt, period. That is no television act. That is a way of life. Fast forward to February 2026, and social media absolutely exploded. Right during the February 8th broadcast of NBA Countdown, the crew was highlighting Boston's winning pedigree, rolling classic footage of those legendary Celtics championship pushes, the 2008 victory parade, and the champagne showers. Big Perk was glowing. That was his era. He literally breathed that history. He was the one popping bottles in that exact facility. Suddenly, he blurted out a statement that left the entire studio absolutely speechless. Broadcasting live to the masses, he stared dead into the lens and declared, "If this network handed me my walking papers right now, I would not shed a single tear. Want to guess why? Because someone up in Massachusetts would throw me a bag. Might not even be the franchise itself, just somebody local." Let that marinate for a second. Sitting right on the channel, signing his checks, hosting the program that built his brand, he boldly announced that getting chopped would not faze him one bit since Beantown always has his back. That snippet caught fire instantly. Massive pages on X like Dunk Central started reposting it everywhere, pulling 10,000 hearts and hundreds of thousands of views before anyone could blink. By sunrise, every major athletic news desk was running the story. Creators milked it for content, while articles painted it as a massive middle finger to his bosses. Video graphics literally framed the whole ordeal like he just walked off the job. Fans online completely split into two camps, some calling it the ultimate power move, while others slammed it as pure career suicide. Almost instantly, the rumor mill went into overdrive, fueling massive viral videos and raking in insane views. The narrative? Big Perk was launching an all-out assault against Stephen A. Folks claimed things turned ugly behind the scenes, alleging the veteran host wanted him axed, prompting Perk to air the dirty laundry on live TV. Hold the phone, though. We need a reality check right here. The actual facts regarding what went down between these heavyweights are way deeper and far more gripping than some basic feud. Zero proof exists supporting the claim that Stephen A. pushed for his co-host's termination. All those sensational rumors you spot scrolling online, screaming about how Big Perk caught his boss plotting his downfall, or claims about his sudden suspension, it's pure fiction fueled by their intense TV debates, lacking real facts. Gossip channels simply weaponize their intense on-screen chemistry. That infamous "I wouldn't care less" remark from February 2026, along with their natural friction, spinning a web of drama completely disconnected from reality. Besides, the big man hasn't lost his job. He kept his chair on First Take post-drama and continued rocking the NBA countdown desk. Business as usual, bringing the noise, clocking in, keeping that unapologetic energy. By March 2026, his gig remained untouched, no penalties handed down, and zero contract tweaks. However, and don't miss this detail, friction burning between these two broadcasters isn't scripted. It simply carries way more layers than your typical good guy versus bad guy setup. Flashback to a First Take broadcast in February 2026. Big Perk totally cut off the main host on live television, dropping a bomb. You plan on checking that mood today? Are we dealing with this energy all morning? The veteran chuckled, but the internet exploded over the brutal call-out. That scene showcased a true unicorn moment in sports television. A panelist actually checking the undisputed king of the castle. Because let's be real, Stephen A. owns that show. Undeniable truth. He is the gravitational center of that entire network. So locking eyes with the boss on a live broadcast and demanding an attitude adjustment? That requires absolute fearlessness, massive job security, or a lethal mix of both. Take that time Golden State rolled in to face off against Brooklyn. Guess who was posted up courtside, chilling right beside the main man? Joe Lacob. Exactly. That's his guy. Their on-air sparring reveals the whole dynamic. The big man goes for the jugular, claiming his co-host is entirely too chummy with Golden State's brass. The veteran fires back immediately. These aren't strangers trading rehearsed teleprompter jabs. We are watching two dudes who genuinely understand each other's quirks, memorized their opponent's triggers, and mapped out the exact boundaries of their trash talk. Wait a second. Then it gets awkwardly detailed. Boom. Right on cue. Despite taking a verbal haymaker, the veteran cracks a real smile. Why? Because beneath the theatrics, stripping away the screaming matches and internet-breaking sound bites, lies undeniable mutual admiration. And that deep-rooted respect is the real secret sauce behind the turning awkward clashes into must-see television. I always rooted for Wardell. Wait, I assumed you meant Curry. The man embraces the chaos. He wears it like a badge of honor. You only catch that kind of undeniable chemistry between veterans who realize pure entertainment matters just as heavily as actual sports analysis. A self-made heavyweight, which flawlessly loops us right to his roots. To truly grasp what makes this analyst tick on screen, what fuels his aggressive debates and relentless pressure, or how he fearlessly drops truth bombs others dodge, we must rewind his tape. Time to break down the actual person, stripping away his television persona. His story begins on November 10th, 1984, deep within the borders of Nederland, Texas, an obscure speck near Beaumont. From day one, he was massive, rugged, and desperate for greatness. He instantly recognized his sheer size would secure his escape route and proved it. Entering his final year at Clifton J. Ozen High down in Beaumont, he dropped 27.5 points, snatched 16.4 boards, and swatted 7.8 shots nightly. Video game stats that completely defy logic. Calling him talented falls short. He was a pure freak of nature, a McDonald's All-American Texas Mister. Hoops, a parade selection, he swept every major award. Come 2003, Memphis grabbed him 27th overall, bypassing college entirely. Skipping university completely, he leaped from local Texan courts directly into the pros. Yet the plot was about to thicken dramatically. His bags remained completely packed in Tennessee. Management instantly shipped him off to Boston in exchange for Troy Bell and Dante Jones. That single transaction firmly dictated his destiny for the following 15 seasons. Landing with a legendary, historic titan of the athletic world, he arrived to grind in the trenches, not steal the spotlight. Rookie stats looked slim: 10 appearances, barely logging 3.5 minutes a night. He was incredibly green, lacking polish and finesse. Yet annually, his focus sharpened and his fundamentals tightened. Entering the 2005-06 campaign, he claimed 68 starts, dominating defensively. Then came the legendary 2008 run. The squad secured the ultimate league title that year. Standing firmly at the core was our guy, skipping offensive glory to act as their ultimate bodyguard, an intimidating force that made rivals think twice before attacking the rim. A defensive pillar backing up Pierce, Garnett, Allen, and Rondo. His brutal impact rarely populated stat sheets, yet overwhelmingly dictated the final buzzer. The following 2008-09 run saw peaks of 8.1 boards and 2.0 swats, transforming into a terrifying interior presence across the association. Come the 2009-10 stretch, he delivered a personal best 10.1 points alongside 7.6 rebounds, nailing 60.2% of his shots, ranking runner-up league-wide. Hitting absolute peak form until disaster struck. Game 6, 2010 finals against LA, his right leg collapsed chasing a board, suffering catastrophic ACL, MCL, and PCL tears. Sidelined for Game 7. The Celtics dropped that series, leaving pundits debating the alternate history of a healthy roster. He ultimately healed. His return brought the year's ultimate plot twist. Late February 2011, Boston shipped him to Oklahoma City. Naturally, he raged. Beantown was his sanctuary. Still, he penned an extension out west and stayed grinding. He propelled that squad to the 2012 finals, only to hit a brick wall named Miami. He bounced around afterward: Utah, Cleveland, New Orleans. The guy became a true journeyman across the association. Yet he remained classic Perk, gritty, loud, and fiercely unyielding. Retiring in 2018, he wrapped up 14 grueling campaigns, logging 782 matchups while banking over $57 million. Incredible stats for an unknown Texas kid from Beaumont's backyard. Stepping away in 2018 didn't mean fading into the background. The man craved the mic. He needed to dictate the narrative. A random social media message from a producer sparked his TV cameos, immediately catching fire. It wasn't about having smooth delivery or textbook broadcasting rhythm. Fans tuned in for that purely unfiltered energy. Dropping truth bombs the polished network executives were terrified to unleash. ESPN eventually knocked, bringing him aboard in 2019. Starting strictly freelance, he held no superstar status and zero guarantees. He admitted to grinding at the network for peanuts or totally free for 12 months, battling through every segment, hustling to capture viewers. Mind you, this guy already pocketed $57 million hooping. He never needed this hustle. Kicking back was absolutely an option. Yet here he was, starting completely from scratch in an unfamiliar arena, treating the gig exactly like a rookie deal. Grind daily, prove your worth, never whine. Gradually, all that agonizing effort started bearing fruit. He secured more segments, commanding massive airtime on the ultimate stage, First Take. That platform caught Stephen A. Smith's eye, sparking an undeniable mentorship behind the scenes, laying the groundwork for future massive opportunities through every single unapologetic opinion. Which brings this entire narrative full circle, because the gritty Texas underdog who fought his way to a legendary Boston ring, the guy who walked into ESPN empty-handed and hustled into prime broadcasting territory, that exact dude continually operates with a massive chip on his shoulder, regardless of the network deal, completely ignoring the bonus checks and newfound job security. Consequently, when the opportunity arose to challenge broadcast executives and flip the script, Stepping up to the very legend who rescued his broadcasting trajectory, the big man refused to flinch. That DNA has always been there. By December 2024, he openly declared his ambition, making this broadcasting pivot vastly outshine his athletic life. A staggering statement, considering his past featured a world championship ring, $57 million, and 14 brutal years surviving the absolute pinnacle of pro hoops. Yet he genuinely plans to eclipse those milestones right on television, gripping a microphone. And his aggressive blueprint, burning bridges over controversial opinions, taking a brutal loss on nationwide broadcasts, battling the channel's absolute top dog, only to stroll back 24 hours later, completely unbothered. Forget being reckless. That takes pure dedication. Fast forward to March 2026. Despite every trending topic and endless gossip, plus countless reaction clips rocking those insane clickbait covers, the big fella remains securely employed by the sports giant, dropping daily takes on their flagship daytime programs without a single demotion. We already warned the big guy. Just one person survives. Popping premium bottles and dropping heavy cash. The man stays permanently anchored. Truthfully, this whole saga stays put too. Because whenever those two titans share a studio armed with hot mics and clashing viewpoints, fans will absolutely devour the footage, hit subscribe, and fiercely debate the ultimate victor. That is the ultimate media playbook right there. Always has been. Enjoyed the breakdown? Tap those screen pop-ups for extra content?